Good afternoon from Sydney, Australia. Middle of summer, but we're having a bit of a wet one at the moment. My name is Trevor Dornbos. I'm the Sales Director and Mission Control Specialist at Aprika Business Solutions on the Mission Control PSA solution. Welcome, everyone, and I'll be going through the next 45 to 60 minutes on Mission Control and focusing on project billing and rates. So first of all, let's go through a quick history of Mission Control. So if you're not familiar with Mission Control, started internally in our own Salesforce instance as some custom objects and was released on Salesforce App Exchange about 12 and a half years ago now. And it's grown over that time from a simple project management solution into a full professional services automation solution. And why Mission Control? Well, a lot of people will choose Mission Control because it's built natively on Salesforce. So you install it into your Salesforce instance or org, and everything you see in all the solution overviews, the demos of Mission Control, all of that is there out of the box. You're not having to sort of pay for extra modules or pay professional services to activate things for you. Everything we're going to be going through is out of the box functionality. Really strong from a configuration perspective. A Salesforce admin or a Salesforce competent person can do a lot of that configuration. So you're not having to learn a new system, which is really strong for a lot of people, as well as getting access to information. All our documentation is available on our website, aprika.com. And we have global user support. So for the people in Sydney, we have people based here in Australia, but we also have a team in North America. So giving you that follow the sun support. Can I just get a show of hands? How many people here are actually based in Australia? I'm expecting pretty much everyone. That's two. Yeah, it's always good to know. That's almost everyone. That's great. Okay, fantastic. What is the value of Mission Control? So we've got a business economic impact report, which we did about a year and a half ago now. Well, sorry, 2 years ago now. And we had an independent consulting company, Klein Consulting, interview 100 Mission Control customers. Of those 100 customers, 50% agreed to dig deep into their P&L statements, their revenue statements, to find out what the impact of Mission Control was for them. So that's really powerful, available on our website. Other reasonings behind being on Salesforce, is you can leverage your existing Salesforce licenses, or a mixture of licenses if need be. If you've got people who just need to do time entry and lower level things, then you can put them onto platform licenses, customers on community, and you've got the benefits of actually being able to do all that configuration and automation with Salesforce. That economic impact report, just a bit of a screenshot. The link is at the bottom of the screen. You'll get a copy of this recording. But if you go to aprika.com, as it says at the bottom there, you should be able to find it, no problem. And a lot of happy customers. So from G2, previously known as G2 Crowd, we've had so many positive customer reviews. We get a lot of high CSAT scores, and we're awarded Customer Success Partner of the Year in 2023 for the high levels of support and very responsive support. So we get a lot of praise from that. And certainly, from smaller customers, small to medium customers, a majority of those are like almost 90% are up and running within a month. Is it just focused on professional services? Absolutely not. We're very much cross-industry and a bit of a who's who across various industries there. A lot of those are ANZ customers. I think about 7 or 8 at least. They should recognize quite a few names in there and a couple of case studies. Brands, one of my favorite companies over in New Zealand, had a massive result with Mission Control in their first 2 years. So, getting not just increase in efficiency, but actually saving days per month per project manager. Really powerful. And then Cardinal Health, one of those Fortune 100 companies that were looking to actually get more visibility, and Mission Control did that for them. What's in mission control? We're going to be talking more about the billing today, but it's resource management, it's project management, it's all those aspects of project management, including our latest release. We've improved the agile capabilities with project sprint board, time tracking, but of course, that project financial. So I'm happy to take questions as we go through and dig into the product. And that's really where the focus is going to be today. So let's look at project billing and rates. And first of all, there's 6 different billing types. So depending on how you're delivering your work, if you've got a set fee like fixed price or fixed price and expenses, that's pretty self-explanatory. Time and materials, again, pretty straightforward. We have an option called controlled on milestones. You might have a project with multiple milestones where you change the billing depending on what stage of the product it is, so of the project it is. And I'll go through some examples of that. Deposit to time and materials. So sometimes not quite sure how many hours is going to be required, so the customer's happy to pay a deposit. Then once that deposit is exhausted, then swapping to time and materials. And similar for those sort of managed services projects where you've got a retainer that you're charging per period, let's say per month. But if people use more than they're supposed to under that retainer, then you can go straight to time and materials. Then on top of the billing types to help control that, and there's a knowledge base article, I'll share the link there. A lot of great information on which billing type and what have you. But the billing cycle. So, for example, if you're doing time and materials, you're probably going to be wanting to do a monthly billing, or you might do even fortnightly or weekly billing. Billing by milestone. So, at the completion of the milestone, automatically generate a billing event and issue an invoice. Manual, it's up to the project manager to determine when to invoice, and that retainer option. So, the billing cycle, we've got that monthly retainer. And then the rates, and that's quite important. And there's a lot of flexibility in here, and that's I won't be delivering this as a training session. It's designed as an overview, but I'm happy to take any questions, point people in the right direction to get down deep into the weeds. But I'll cover off the things, billing rates and cost rates, difference between the different rates, standard, role-based, skills-based rate cards. And we're looking at a manage rates feature as well. So if we look into the 2 areas, I'm going to give you a super quick overview of mission control fundamentals. So that'll be for the people that maybe aren't as familiar with mission control, and then we'll dig straight into the project billing fundamentals. Project billing. So if you're fresh to mission control, you may start your journey in the console. And the console is a gathering of wizards, not the arcane type, but the type that relate to mission control, to do the most typical things you'd want to do, creating a project, creating a role, someone you're going to allocate to a piece of work, grouping those roles into various teams by capability, by location, skill sets, those sort of aspects. And that's all in the Launchpad. As you're progressing your project, then the different tools you're going to have available, both standalone, also underneath the project. So being able to use the Kanban board, the action pad, just to check off or manage everything from your timesheet. And then to deep dive, the management pad, being able to sort of deep dive straight into a project. And these are some of the projects we're going to be deep diving into today. And if you're the admin, then the control pad is where you're going to put the system-wide settings for mission control and manage those. Key value points of mission control, and I'm going to go through 2 and then quickly show a conversion of a project from an opportunity. The resource planner, so being able to filter, you'll see little green filters all the way through mission control. It's just over at the right-hand side of my screen here. And I'm filtered to my key consultants. So I can get a view from here till the end of April, or maybe even here just to the end of the month, saying what's my capacity looking like? How busy are people? And I can see I've got actions where they're assigned to work, a forecast where I've got opportunity forecasts that haven't closed yet, as well as any holiday, whether that's public holiday like Australia Day coming up, or annual leave, paid time off. And of course, that capacity line, so a lot of white space. And here I can see straight away that Lana's probably the busiest. I've got a lot of bench time, which is not great. I can get to a very granular view of that as well in the resource planner. And I can look at that. I might want to look at this at the beginning of each week from a daily view, weekly, or look at the next few months. And the value of that is I've got hyperlinks to all the individual records, but I can see exactly what projects the people are working on and when the hours are being assigned. And maybe if someone's overloaded, like here in the end of February, is okay, what are the projects that are actually impacting that? And this is actually a forecast in here, so we might be able to reassign that to someone else. And if you do want to reassign, you can do it at the project level, of course, but also you might want to use the scheduler. So the scheduler is a great way to get a view, and again, using that filter to my key people, and I can see the capacity. I can see, looks like we've got Australia Day, everyone's off on the Monday, and everyone's made a long weekend of it. So we've got a typical Australian 4-day weekend. Fantastic. But I can see here that people are either at or over their capacity in red, and I can adjust those settings. And I can see Bethany definitely needs a bit of time alleviation here. So I can see she's actually delivering training, and she's got some other work. Now, maybe the training can't be rescheduled. Otherwise I could just move it on. So what I'm going to do is I could use filters to find the right person. I could assign that to Kelly to deliver that. We can see straight away that Bethany's hours have gone down and Kelly's have gone up. So a great way to sort of manage that resourcing. And how do we actually get a project kicked off? Now, this is where the project billing sort of aspect comes into play. So if we're automating that project creation, I've got a Salesforce opportunity. I've got a services category in my opportunity saying it's fixed price professional services. So as the project manager, I go, okay, well, I know I need to use my implementation project for fixed price. And that's going to be set up with the correct billing and the way I want to manage this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to quickly just create the project, kick that off to start today, and wait about 3 seconds for that to run in the background. And there we can see our project. Now, if I drill through into the project, I've got a full project view. There's a lot of aspects in here. I see I've got a billing tab here. Nothing's happened yet, so there's no billing events have been created. I've got $24,000 budget, and I haven't generated any events or invoices, so I've still got that budget remaining. Now, some of the aspects we're going to drill into quickly is, okay, well, it's fixed price. How do I actually check on that or modify that? So I've got all my page layout details now. For those who are familiar with Salesforce, this is a page layout, and you can amend, modify where the fields are in the page layout, which ones you want to show or hide. So if the fields you see here that aren't relevant to your business, you can actually remove them, move them to the bottom of the screen. So the key thing in the project settings is I've got fixed price and expenses. I talked about those different types of billing types. We'll go through those. I'm saying this is not only fixed price, but I'm also including expenses on this project. Then the second component of the project billing is the billing rate. Now, of the 4 rates I've got here, role-based means for each of my roles, the people who are delivering, they've got a billing rate set in their role record. And in my system, they've also got a cost rate. So that's a great way to track the margin. Now you might think, but hold on, Trevor, I'm doing fixed price. And if I put my mind back to when I was an engagement manager, we're delivering time and materials. You'd say, well, time and materials, the billing's going to be X amount. If we're doing fixed price, we just put a 20% buffer on top. So what you can do, you can actually track if you still track into the margin if you were doing time and materials. So the billing rate will be the hours delivered times that billing rate to give you that financial reporting. Very useful. I'll go through the other billing rates in the next section. But say, so you start with the billing type, then you select the billing rate, and then we scroll down to the billing information, and then you'd have the billing cycle. So my example, I've got milestone billing, and that's all I really need. So what that means, if I just hit cancel, each of my milestones has a budget, and I've got a setting within my milestone to say when all the actions under a milestone complete, automatically generate a billing event. Now, I could do that very quickly if I just tick off the requirements meeting. Even if I don't log time to it, because of the way I've got my settings, I'm not so concerned about getting the time in here. But what that will do is that will automatically kick off a billing event for the $3,000 for that milestone. So we can come back to that. We'll be covering off fixed fee again in this section. But if there's any questions, please, there's a webinar chat screen. There's also a Q&A window. So if you do actually want to ask any questions, happy to make this quite interactive. Okay, so I've got my sample billing projects. Excuse me while I take a sip of water. And go through all the different options. Now, just to make it easy to view, I've just created a Salesforce list view under the Projects tab. So I can see the project name, my budget. All the budgets are the same for all of my projects. I've got the billing type for each. I've got a billing cycle, and I've got a billing rate. So you'll see I've got role-based, I've got a rate card for the second one, I've got role-based, I've also got standard, which is a daily rate, and I've got skill-based. So a lot of options you can choose from. If we look at the billing type, fixed price and expenses. Sorry, let's just change that. That was me playing around earlier. So there we go. That should be fixed price. Time and materials, and controlled on milestones. We'll dig into that. So let's go first of all to fixed price and expenses. Probably not much more to cover than the fact that we just went through very similar project. So it's got that fixed price and expenses. We're using role-based billing and cost rate. If you need to change that, you can. Again, if you've got fixed price, this is really more for the reporting, the financial reporting. You might say, I'm going to change that to standard billing of daily rate of $1,600. So you've got the flexibility to adjust that. And maybe the cost rate, you're going to have a flat rate. Maybe you're not going to do it by the individual people that are delivering the work. Now, if we go down to the billing cycle, now for fixed fee, we really need to use milestone billing so we can actually get that completed. Not much else to really show for that. I've already shown you an example of actually completing a milestone and triggering that milestone billing. But certainly we can come back to that, answer any questions if there are any. Fixed price, exactly the same criteria. In that, instead of saying fixed price and expenses, sorry, I just realized what I should have covered off here. Let's go back to my fixed price and expenses. So because it's expenses, I've also got an expenses section down the bottom, and I haven't actually put in my anticipated expenses. I might say, look, I'm expecting $2,000 of expenses. If you've got an admin markup fee that you charge for expenses, you might have 5 or 10% admin fee you put in there. And similar to time logging, you can actually have approvals required for when people are actually putting in project expenses. If I update that project expenses there, then if I actually go to the expenses tab, I can see that I've got my $2,000. So as people are actually logging expenses against the project, it'll actually track it here. And then you can choose to include those expenses on the invoice to the customer as part of those billing events. Jumping across to project billing fixed price, if we just look at the differentiators, right, that's the reason why we're going in here, is this one is actually using a rate card. Now, if I go into the page detail, what I've done here is I've got this under an account, and for that account, I've created a rate card. Now, I've just created one for the webinar called Webinar Rate Card, so it's probably easier if I jump into the detail page layout here. I'm going to open up that webinar rate card that I've created. and we'll edit it because it's going to give us a much better view. So what you can put into your rate card, and typically you'd have a rate card per customer. So for example, for ACE, I might have a rate card for them. Let's just hit refresh again. It will hit refresh just as it was displaying. So I've got my webinar rate card. It's linked to an account. Now, if you don't have an account linked to it, I think it won't let you save, but in your project, you have to specify the account before you search on the rate card. So it won't actually find it unless it's linked to the specific account. So for the different functions within my project, I can specify a billable hourly rate as well as the skill for that billable hourly rate. So it gives me two aspects. So whether they're a project manager or they're using that skill, we're going to be having this billable hourly rate. I'm not putting a cost rate in here because of my business. I'm always doing the cost rate for the actual role, but you can actually specify a cost rate there as well. So of course, when you're specifying a rate card, it's going to override any other settings you've got. So you've got that to manage your project. No questions yet. I'm either very covering this very well, or I'm confusing the heck out of people. Hopefully not the second one. Billing, time and materials. Again, it's just really going into that billing type, selecting time and materials, and then again determining what is the role, what is the billing rate. So for example, if I wanted to do a standard daily rate, I could actually just plug that in there, and that way it'll actually bill it daily rate rather than by the hourly rate. And when you do select time and materials, you will need to actually use the periodic billing cycle and specify the billing frequency. So, and there's a lot of flexibility on how you want to do that. Weekly, 2 weekly, fortnightly, 4 weekly, monthly, quarterly, or 1st and 16th of the month. And when you do select periodic billing frequency, you're going to have to specify the next billing date. So if you're just starting your project in early January, and you're going to be billing at the end of January, then you'll have to specify that. If I actually take that out, let's just test it and try and hit save, it probably won't let me do it. It's got, one of the fields is actually missing. So don't be too concerned if you don't know how it's all set up, because the help, if you like, the warnings will alert you to what they should be. So, and then your time materials project's ready to go. The fourth option we're looking at is milestone controlled. And a lot of this is used a lot within our construction clients and manufacturing clients, where they might be halfway through a milestone, but they actually want to do some billing. So it's like, well, we don't have to want to wait till the milestone's completed. We like to actually do a percent billing as we go through. So if we look at this and we jump into the project billing, you'll see controlled or milestones. We're still using the same costs and billing rate just for our reporting. And the billing cycle is manual, because we'll be manually determining when we're actually going to do that billing. Now, the way we'd actually go into that is when you've got that setting, milestone controlled set, you'll actually see in the billing, you get the milestone generator. And this gives you a new functionality, only available if you've got your project set to milestone billing. And obviously there's all these things you can set here. I'm going to set this to start, to draft. Should be attached to an account. I haven't got it set to an account. Maybe it's going to a certain person. Invoice date's going to be today. Maybe it's due in 2 weeks. If I've got any expenses, and do I want to track any expenses between certain dates? Now, where we've got the milestones, you've got some options. So you've got your budget of what you're going to invoice, and you can choose to bill by percent. So you might say, oh, look, I want to bill 50%, and then it's going to update the amount, half of that milestone billing amount. So 3,000 was the budget. I put 1,500. then they go in there. Obviously, if I change that 25%, whatever it may be, I might actually prefer to put in a manual amount. I may say, look, I'm just going to put in $1,000. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. So certainly, and I always like to reference construction because that's certainly one of the use cases. If they get to a certain stage, I say, oh, I've just received delivery of materials. We just want to do a progress invoice. So you can certainly manage that any way you need to. And it'll track those as you go through. The fifth option is deposit to time and materials. So it might have the example that, okay, we've got, let's say we've actually had, might have had a $10,000 budget for the project, and then we'll flip to time and materials after that. So if I just go that, hit refresh, that should change everything there. And I have to talk to some of this rather than give you live examples per se. But let's talk to, so deposit to time and materials. And I've also set, I'm going to be billing a standard day rate rather than hourly rate when I get to the time materials. So we've got a project budget of $10,000, and that's going to be our deposit amount. And once the calculations have gone through, so we said, okay, so we're going to be charging $1,600 a day until we hit $10,000. We're going to be tracking, sorry, my apologies. We're going to be tracking our billing at $1,600 a day until we exhaust that $10,000. And then once we got over that amount, then we'll start doing time and materials billing. And there's some settings in there. So you can set a threshold as, okay, when do I actually execute on that? So it's a nice way to automate that process, that it'll just automatically flip from, okay, we've issued the deposit invoice, we're tracking the time login against the project. When it hits that threshold for what they've paid on the deposit invoice, then we'll start issuing time and materials invoices. And then those settings down here for the T&M, they have to be periodic. We say they're going to be monthly, or we've actually got a lot of customers that have moved their billing to weekly or fortnightly just for increased cash flow. And then the final option I'm going to talk to is retainer to time and material. So retainer, typically for your managed services type projects, and you might be charging a certain amount per month. And once they've actually hit a threshold of hours on that, then you want to actually charge them time and materials. So very similar option. Again, it's based on the billing type. So we've got our retainer, and I've changed the billing rate here when we do get to time and materials in that it's skill based. So when people are using a skill, let's say, for example, when Alana, my consultant, is delivering training, her skill-based billing rate is 150 an hour. When she's doing configuration, it might be 180. When she's doing design, it might be 200. So you can be quite flexible on how you're actually doing that billing to your customers. And the same thing with the retainer. Once you've used the number of hours, and in my example, I've got 10 hours scheduled. As soon as they've logged more than 10 hours, then any time over that, they'll be issuing as time and materials. So very useful for those managed services. So they use 12 hours this month, then you can track towards it. There's certainly lots of flexibility around that. A much shorter session than I expected. Again, I'm happy to take any questions and deep dive into areas that are sort of burning questions for people. What I'll cover off, certainly, we're happy to sort of go through and have discussions on ways you want to look at mission control, find out if it is the right fit for your business. If you're an existing customer, maybe you want to have an account review call and see how you can better use some of the features of mission control. You can certainly leverage our customer success team as well. For learning, not only do we have online collateral, but we have a mission control learning portal. You can self-register for that, and there's a number of modules you can go through as part of that online learning. As far as other resources, That business impact report, you can certainly get from our website. There's a lot of ebooks there. And I think one of the questions I've had there, the approximate cost per user, we're not shy about sharing that information. All the information is actually on our website. So priced in US dollars, we have two subscription options. One is pay by the month by credit card. Great for getting those Qantas points up, or paid annually upfront per user. Also can be on credit card, but also the annual can be by invoice and wire transfer or by credit card. There is a 5-seat minimum order quantity, but once you've actually contracted, you can add one user at a time as you need to. So there's not like minimum quantities and what you actually need to do. But remembering, you do need to have a Salesforce license. So we don't OEM the Salesforce license. And one of the key things I always like to emphasize is you will need one flavor of Salesforce license to access Mission Control. So that Salesforce license is the underpinning, and Mission Control sits on top of that. If you've got a plan to actually get onto Mission Control or extra users soon, I would suggest January is a great time to be talking to your account exec at Salesforce, because it's their end of financial year and there should be some deals to be had there. And quickly jumping back to where we were. Good question. Thank you very much. If you want to trial Mission Control, all you need to do is go to Salesforce App Exchange. So if you go to Salesforce App Exchange and do a search on Mission Control Project Management, there's also a live test drive account there, and you can download into a sandbox using the Get It Now. Log on as your Trailblazer account, link to that sandbox, and you can download Mission Control for a free 14-day trial. Another question: when invoicing a time expense, you want to top up the time without a cost. Is this possible? Probably I'll ask a question on that. When you want to top up the time, is that you want to add more hours? So it just made me realize I've missed one feature I was going to show. So let me answer that question. So, which was our time and materials? Let's go number 3. So, correct, adding more hours. So if I go to my project insights, that'll tell us very quickly how many hours we've got on our project. Well, once it refreshes, it'll tell us very quickly. So I've got everything switched on here. So I can see here, okay, I've got 94 hours billable on my project. I can have billable and non-billable hours. So if I go and look at my work breakdown structure, and under my milestones, all of the green icons are the project actions. So you'll see under each project action, I've got my total hours scheduled. When people log time, they'll get the total hours completed, and that rolls up from the action to the milestone and up to the project level. If I wanted to add more hours to the project, either as a new action, existing action, but don't want to impact the billing, then I'd go to the Create Actions page. It's probably the quickest way. So let's use that 8 hours for the requirements meeting, for example. And I know that I'm probably going to have a junior consultant on there, and they're going to have do more time for research. So I'm going to add some non-billable hours. Maybe I'll do the same for design wireframes, maybe on build framework. So I'm going to have people shadowing, and maybe on the training, I'm going to actually have someone shadow that too. But they're not going to be charged to the customer, but they're going to be an internal cost. So once I hit save there, it will update the total hours on my actions in the work breakdown structure. So we'll see there's 12 hours there now. But if I go back to, excuse me, the insights page, I'll see I've actually got 18 non-billable hours there. So when people are logging time, they might be assigned to the non-billable portion. I can show you quickly, because we've got time. Let's just see, for example, I might say, okay, I've got a requirements meeting. Let's use the example. I'm actually going to have someone shadowing my consultant. So I'm going to use the resource assignment wizard. It's going to be slow for me today. There we go. And I need a place. I've got a placeholder consultant. I've got 8 billable hours, 4 non-billable. My default for my project says I need someone from the consulting team who's good with project brief writing. I do a search. Okay. Let's just say that is Alana. And I might just say, look, Kelly is going to actually shadow to get some experience. And I've got that 4 hours up here. I want to give those 4 hours to Kelly. So I can see 8 hours billable is going to Alana, 4 hours non-billable is going to Kelly. So hopefully that answers the question. Now, the part that I didn't show, and I'm glad I sort of caught myself on that, let me just quickly close those out, is what if I want to change the rate on my project? And this could be with long-running projects you might have, especially time and materials, what have you. So, okay, I'm actually going to change the rate as we go. Or maybe I know after a certain time. So once you're in the project, we've got a manage rates feature where you can determine, let's say, for example, you know what, we've agreed with the customer that we're going to use our default rate for billing for Mick Fanning, our project manager, to start with. But then you could say, you know, once we get to March, our rates are actually going up, and the billable rate will actually be 260. And yeah, we add that in, and that will sit there. And we can just hit save. So you could go through the whole project, adjust it. Kind of useful if you've got very long running projects that are multi-year or they're going to go over through the year. And yeah, you might have a contractual agreement with your customer and actually reduce the rates after a certain amount of time, heaven forbid. But yeah, certainly flexibility. So hopefully from this session, you've got the understanding that there is a lot of flexibility in billing with Mission Control. And I'd actually say as well that a lot of the billing types that have come in are from customer demand. So certainly if you find you're having to do workarounds with certain ways of doing billing, if we get the request from enough customers or it makes sense, they could actually end up as a feature. I know I've been with Aprika and Mission Control for 4 years, and the bottom 3 are actually new since I've been with the company. So the product's been around for 12 years. Gives you an idea of the the development of the product. I think the inclusion of rate cards and manage rates and different aspects. So things that make sense to include in the product, we're more than happy to incorporate. And finishing off again. If you want to have a trial, you can actually go to the test drive. So it's hard to see on my screen, but if you find Mission Control Project Management on Salesforce App Exchange, there's a little blue button at the right, test drive. That is not a trial. That is a live account that anyone can access as a guest or with the Trailblazer account. And if you've got any technical questions, you are doing a trial, you can leverage our support. You don't need to be a paying customer to actually raise a support ticket. Thank you for your time. A lot quicker than I expected. I do have more time if someone would like me to take you through any other aspects. Otherwise, I will thank you for your time and wish you well. Again, even if you want to contact me directly, my email's up there on the screen. Trevor Dornbos. Note the spelling of Dornbos. It's RNB, not MB. Trevor.dornbos@aprika.com.au or @aprika.com. Thank you everyone for your time. Enjoy what rest of your day, and I look forward to speaking with all of you or some of you soon. Take care.